Child, bye bye, lulai, lula, thou little tiny child, bye bye, lulai, lulay. Oh, sisters too, how may we do for to preserve this day, this poor youngling, for whom we do sing. Bye bye, lulai, lulay. Lulai, lula, thou little tiny child, bye bye, lulai, lula, thou little tiny child, bye bye, lulai, lulay.
Imagine that you could travel back 750 years in time. In the very space where most of today's services take place in St. Lawrence, stood a small chapel. That chapel was first mentioned in recorded history in 1279. How long it had already been in existence, we don't know. It was a small, simple stone building measuring just 33 feet long and 16 feet wide. A simple stone or wooden altar would have stood at its eastern end, with a window above, and there was a small arched entrance at its western end. The bare earth floor would have been covered with hay. It was a simple enclosed space, no pews, no monuments, no stained glass windows, no fancy ornamentation.
Lord Christ, go with us, that, following your star, we may wander in the darkness of this world's light, while you, who are our way and truth and life, shine within us to our journey's end. Mary gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. What God loves best and most wants done is that in us he bears his son. O Christe, Domine Jesu, O Christe, Domine Jesu. What good is it to me if this eternal birth of the divine Son takes place unceasingly, but does not take place within myself? And what good is it to me if Mary is full of grace and I am not also full of grace? What good is it to me for the Creator to give birth to the Son, if I do not also give birth to him in my time and in my culture? This, then, is the fullness of being, when the Son of God is begotten in us.
O Christe Domine Jesu, O Christe Domine Jesu, O Christe Domine Jesu, O Christe Domine Jesu.
This spiral into the centre of this church takes us into a history of this place over centuries, but it's also taking us through centuries of tradition to the Christmas story, so that we're transported back through layers of words and image and music to a truth that we then find in our time and our space here. And all the words come from deep within people who have made that journey in their place and their time, back through the centuries of the faith tradition, to this point where a revelation that whatever God is to you is born again and again within our own reality.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, full of grace and truth.
Standing at its western entrance and looking out over the surrounding area would have been a very different experience to what it is today. There was no town of Stroud. It did not yet exist. There was nothing to see in any direction but open countryside, and perhaps a few faint wisps of smoke rising here and there in the distance from the fires of scattered homesteads. This little chapel was what is called a chapel of ease. It belonged to its mother church in Bisley, 4 miles north of here and steeply uphill. Its main purpose was so that children could be baptized. So the newborn in the scattered communities around about here were brought to this chapel, wrapped in their swaddling clothes, and immersed in the holy water kept in the chapel for that purpose. If no other suitable person could be found, the midwife could baptize the child herself. Why was the chapel here, on this particular spot, standing all alone? Was this small piece of land already a pre-existing and ancient sacred place when the chapel was built? Probably. It's certainly hard to escape the feeling that this small space at the core of today's church and at the very heart of today's town of Stroud, has an ancient sacred nature or spirit that we can still sense today.
Let me seek then the gift of silence and simplicity and solitude. Where everything I touch is turned to prayer. Where the sky is my prayer, the birds are my prayer, the wind in the trees is my prayer, where God is all in all.
The joy of Christmas is not only about the crib. The crib is just a sign. It is to the cave within the heart where we should go to. This is the true cave where Christ is born in us. This cave is the bosom of the eternal God, where the Word is born and comes to be from all eternity. Live in this cave, in the depth of your heart.
One way to focus on the Christ child in Stroud, and perhaps here, is to pan outwards, to pan right outwards and get an ecological view, both of the world and then beyond that to the cosmos. And you see then the Christ who, as Mel said in her reading, is the Christ, the original divine presence through whom all things were made. You get that image. But then if you pan right in again and pan and pan and pan and pan right in again, you get the vulnerable Christ child and the idea that Christ exists in our vulnerable humanity. So you get the massive image of the cosmic Christ and the very intimate image of the Christ who exists within our humanity. And the church, this church, seems to exist at the intersection between the cosmic Christ and the Christ child. And that creates a very sacred atmosphere. And for some reason, the arts seem to intensify, enhance, focus that sacredness, bring it home for us. It seems to break through the barrier and takes us almost like a portal to another realm.
true identity is never about our present anxiety, terror, trauma, disease. It's always deeply beneath all those things and transforms them. That our true identity, when we've come to the center, to this deep place within ourselves, within the universe, where God and me, the self, whoever the me is, belong together in a new identity, in a reality that transforms everything else.
Christmas is every day once we have discovered the non-time of our own origin. Each moment is the dawn of eternity in the explosion of the joy of being. To practice dwelling in silence is to practice simplicity. It is to let go, to give a consent to truth. A consent which allows for everything I thought I knew to fall away, where everything I've been told falls, where everything I've imagined is let go. It's kind of like entering into a darkness where we do not know the way. Yet in that darkness, at the heart of that darkness, there is a light. And in the light, there is the birth of love, peace, compassion, and joy. Waiting in silence for the stirring of our own being.
Lord of the starfields, sower of life, heaven and earth are full of your light. Voice of the nova, smile of the dew, all of our yearnings come home to you.